Regional leaders called for improved access to COVID-19 vaccines during the 27th Ibero-American Summit of Heads of State and Governments this Wednesday. The United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean has stressed that the projected economic growth in 2021 will not roll back increases in poverty and inequality stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has reiterated that the only international nuclear deal valid for Iran is the one agreed upon in 2015. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. 22 leaders of Latin America and the Caribbean, together with those of Spain, Portugal and Andorra, came together this Wednesday to agree on common responses to the coronavirus crisis as part of the 27th Ibero-American Summit of Heads of State and Government. In the opening plenary, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the world was witnessing growing and unacceptable inequality in access to COVID-19 vaccines.
The impact of the crisis has been particularly devastating for women, children, and the most vulnerable sectors of our societies. Today, the vaccine launch has generated hope. We have taken important steps in creating the COVAX mechanism, and a growing list of countries are receiving the first vaccine through it. But I am deeply concerned that many low-income countries have not received a single dose, while the richest countries are on their way to vaccinating their entire populations. If these dangerous trends of vaccine nationalism and side deals continues, vaccination in developing countries could take years, further delaying the global recovery.
As part of his speech to the Ibero-American Summit, Cuban President Miguel DiazCanel highlighted the technological and scientific advances in Cuba, which have allowed the country to develop 5 COVID-19 vaccine candidates, 2 of which are in phase 3 clinical trials.
Strong science and technological innovation system with an advanced and efficient pharmaceutical industry, allied to the universal, free and quality healthcare system with highly trained human resources, have made possible Cuba's response to the pandemic. A little more than a year after the first cases of COVID-19 were detected in the country, we have 5 vaccine candidates, 2 of them, Soberana 02 and Abdala, in phase 3 clinical trials, and we hope to immunize the entire Cuban population before the end of 2021 with our own vaccines.
On speaking during the Ibero-American Summit, Venezuelan Vice President Rodrguez stressed that the bloc offers an unique opportunity to achieve great things.
American community, that we have a great space to do better, that we have a great opportunity, I believe, here in this Ibero-American community, where there are 2 countries that are victims of a criminal blockade, victims of coercive, unilateral, illegal measures. A lot can be done, all bridges can be built, all kinds of spaces for communication, for dialogue can be opened.
Bolivian President Luis Arce called on the World Trade Organization and the World Intellectual Property Organization to work for a prompt modification of intellectual property rights in the face of the need to manufacture COVID-19 vaccines across the globe.
At the service of the human being, without any type of geographical, political or social discrimination, and the access to vaccines must be seen as a human right. For that reason, pharmaceutical companies and governments must maintain sincere cooperation and implement the dissemination of their knowledge and technology, so that by working together we can guarantee immediate and timely access to vaccines for the most vulnerable people.
And the Mexican Foreign Secretary Marcelo Ebrard highlighted the unequal access of developing countries to vaccines against COVID-19 and praised the efforts of Latin American countries like Cuba to produce their own vaccine candidates.
Is that in order not to repeat the same situation, we need capacity, the mobilization of resources, perseverance, will, and in essence, resolve, because we have the resources to do it, to develop and conclude the phase 3 trials of the previously mentioned vaccines, and we can give preference in the procurement portfolio of our countries to these vaccines to strengthen our ability to respond promptly and effectively to the challenge that we have experienced in recent months.
Nicaraguan Foreign Minister Denis Moncada pointed to the greatest challenges facing humanity today and stressed the need to remain united as a community of Ibero-American countries.
The greatest challenges for humanity continue to be the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, the eradication of poverty, the recovery of the economy with social justice and human development. These challenges demand greater Ibero-American unity, promoting cooperation, solidarity, with respect for independence, sovereignty, and non-interference in the internal affairs of each state and government.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez said that his government is deeply committed to the fight against the deadly COVID-19 pandemic across the region and will provide vaccines to Latin America and the Caribbean.
I would like to say that the government of Spain is deeply committed to the region in the fight against the pandemic, and access to vaccines must be equitable and universal. And for that reason, Spain adopted in January a plan of solidarity vaccines. And in this regard, I would like to make an announcement, and that is that the government of Spain is going to make available to Latin America and the Caribbean between 5% and 10% of the total amount of vaccines against COVID-19 that our country will receive during 2021. We estimate that this will mean at least 7.5 million doses by the end of this year.
During his speech to the summit, Spanish King Felipe VI praised the work of health personnel and other organizations involved in the fight against the pandemic, as well as the solidarity shown by the countries of the region with Latin America.
Spain, as certainly is the case of many countries, the extraordinary efforts of health personnel were joined by members of our armed forces, security forces, universities, companies, NGOs, civil societies, and other bodies, who have given their best in the most delicate and uncertain moments, and who day in, day out, continue to contribute with a great sense of duty and service, all their knowledge and their efforts in these circumstances. I wish to express the pride I also feel for the solidarity of my compatriots with the sister nations of the Americas.
In this context, President of Venezuela Nicolás Maduro Moros praised the intervention of Vice President Delcy Rodriguez for denouncing the blockade of $2 billion of Venezuelan funds in Portuguese banks, reiterating the allegations about the economic war against Venezuela.
A virtual summit, it brought the great issues of Venezuela, the great issues of the moment. I want to congratulate the Executive Vice President for having been as clear as ever, so forceful in defending the interests of Venezuelan men and women. She denounced the process of monopolization, hoarding and speculation with the prices of vaccines in the international market. Vaccines have been turned into merchandise for speculation, for domination, for war. She denounced the unilateral coercive measures and the oil, economic and financial war against Venezuela and how Venezuela is moving forward. The year 2021 is the year of life, of Carabobo and its recovery. She demanded that some governments of Europe, among them Portugal, assert their authority and return the $2 billion that they have sequestered in Portugal, in the Bank of Portugal.
Likewise, the Venezuelan president stressed as an important achievement for the Bolivarian people the agreements recently signed with the executive director of the World Food Programme, David Beasley, to develop food programs at the schools in the South American country.
I play a constitutional president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Stamp my signature on the official agreement with the executive director of the World Food Programme, David Beasley. That's pronounced the surname, right? David Beasley. This program has received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2020 from a great global experience to help people. We signed an agreement to take a first step in an ambitious and comprehensive plan. A first step, Loyal Minister Tallaria, Food Minister Aristobal Isturi, that is not listening. The first step is to bring the experience of the World Food Programme to the initial school of Venezuela.
Also, the President Maduro explained that the agreements reached with the World Food Programme will help to perfect the food security system of the Venezuelan people.
Venezuela needs the support of the World Food Programme, and what do we need the support for? To perfect the food system of security and sovereignty of the people of Venezuela, to improve it, to reach it with protein, quality and nutrients to all. That is why we agreed to sign this free agreement to provide food assistance to initial schools.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean stated on Wednesday that projected economic growth in the region in 2021 will not set off the losses occurred in 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic or roll back increases in poverty and inequality.
Economic growth is expected in the coming years, which will make job recovery very difficult and will make it also difficult to overcome informality, which in the region sums more than 54% of work, and reverse the increase in poverty and extreme poverty. The persistence of the pandemic and the fragility of the economic recovery process make it necessary to extend these fiscal measures over 2021 and perhaps even 2022.
The Director General of the World Health Organization maintains its interest in implementing the massive use of Sputnik V vaccine globally. On Wednesday, at a meeting held in Geneva, the Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom, expressed his interest in the general use of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, according to a statement published by the Russian Chancellery. Adhanom met with Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Vershinin, where highlighted Moscow's significant contribution to multilateral cooperation. Spain has received the first 146,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to be used to inoculate people between 70 to 79 years old as a priority group, according to health authorities.
After my appearance in the Senate, we went to receive the first 146,000 Johnson doses that arrived in our country. They have been distributed throughout the day today in all the autonomous communities and are now available to the autonomous communities to begin inoculation. The agreement of the Council has been to prioritize this vaccine to the 79 to 70 age group in the first instance. This means prioritizing, not limiting. From next Monday, April 26th, and every Monday in May, we will start receiving 1,700,000 doses of Pfizer vaccine alone every week. This means 500,000 more doses per week, which will undoubtedly give a tremendously important boost to vaccination.
In Cuba, family doctors' clinics in Havana are making preparations to conduct the first stage of mass vaccination against COVID-19, health authorities announced. The domestically produced Abdala and Soberano 2 jabs will be administered to some 1.7 million people in the Cuban capital. Cuba has produced its own vaccines in a huge scientific and technological effort to avoid dependence on other countries, overcome the restrictions of the U.S. blockade and also the sanctions, and to provide assistance to developing nations. 2 of the 5 vaccine candidates are in the final stages of the required clinical test before the rollout of mass vaccination. The extensive network of family doctors' facilities should be ready in the coming days to become the venues for the first stage of mass vaccination against COVID-19, once authorities announce the launch date. The country aims to have inoculated the entire population by the end of the year. Health authorities will recruit medical assistants with 6 years interns and other medical students helping to implement the vaccination campaign. The last month, Uruguay has gone from being an example in the management of the pandemic to leading the rankings for daily COVID-19 infections per capita in the world. Medical staff on a private hospital express how difficult the deaths due to coronavirus have been and the challenges they face.
The thing about this is death, and we in the intensive area do not get a reward because we know that they are coming, and it is very difficult to see them leave. When they come, it is very difficult. One leaves and you have 10 left.
It has become a lot worse. We came from a controlled situation to a situation of many cases. A lot of work, and well, you have seen it. A lot of stress as well.
We have problems with the issue of medication, drugs to keep patients sedated, because being here with the tubes they need to be sedated, and well, there is a great shortage of sedatives. For now we have ventilators and monitors, but we have noticed more of a shortage with medication, which is normal because there is also a great demand for sedatives. The hardest
In Chile, more than 6,000 port workers were paralyzed throughout the country in protest against the government of Sebastián Piñera after requesting the Constitutional Court to prevent the withdrawal of retirement funds to face the health and economic crisis that the country is experiencing. The strike, called by the Port Union of Chile, took place in 17 ports of this nation. In turn, the International Dock Workers Council for Latin America and the Caribbean, port organization comprising 100% of unionized workers from the South American Atlantic coast, announced a progressive strike in Chile with worldwide incidents that threatens to block cargo from this southern country in support of the Chilean people for resorting to retirement to survive the ravages of the pandemic. The arrival of supplies and humanitarian aid to St. Vincent and the Grenadines continues in the framework of the international assistance provided to the island by various countries in the region due to the constant eruptions of the volcano La Soufriere. On Wednesday, 28 tons of water and medical team of 6 specialists from Cuba arrived on the island. The government of St. Lucia also sent a shipment of 20 tons of water tanks to contribute to the storage of the precious liquid in St. Vincent.
To this situation, this disaster situation here, because we have already 2 problems. We have the COVID still on our hands, and also we have the response that we have to do for the volcanic eruption. So Cuba has sent us doctors and medicines and equipment with respect to those specialities, and we have also supplies from them and from St. Lucia. So we thank the Cubans, we thank the St. Lucians, we thank the Venezuelans on this triple level of solidarity to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And we have more stories coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has reiterated. No one word less and not one more in that pact, the president stressed in response to Washington's initiatives to renegotiate the deal in order to include new concessions from the Islamic Republic. Rouhani said it is clear to Europe and other countries that the only solution to the current crisis is the full implementation of the original Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, from which the United States unilaterally withdrew in 2018. It is for Washington to take the first step, return to the agreement, and reverse the battery of sanctions against Iran, the president said. In the context of ongoing negotiations in Vienna seeking to bring the U.S. back to the deal, Iran has warned that only after all illegal sanctions are lifted will it reciprocate by reducing its uranium enrichment program to the limits, also the limits established in the accord. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad will seek re-election in the presidential vote scheduled for May 26. Syrian Parliament Speaker Hamouda Youssef Sabah announced that as well as al-Assad, 5 other candidates have so far applied to be approved by Parliament to contest the upcoming elections. Among them is Fatem Ali Nahar, the first ever woman nomination for the post. To become a presidential candidate, Syrian law demands that applicants must gather support from at least 36 of the 250 members of Parliament. The country is preparing to hold the election in the midst of continued foreign intervention, aerial bombardments by Israel, terrorism by armed groups, and economic sanctions promoted by the United States and its allies. In southwestern Pakistan, at least 4 people were killed and 1,000 others wounded when a bomb exploded at a top hotel hosting the Chinese ambassador. Officials said that no group immediately claimed responsibility for the attack. The blast took place in the car park of Syrian throughout Pakistan, in the city of Quetta, the capital of Balochistan province, where the military has been fighting a decade-long low-level insurgency. In June, Baloch insurgents targeted the Pakistan Stock Exchange, which is partly owned by Chinese companies. That attack was claimed by the Balochistan Liberation Army.
The only 5-star hotel in Quetta where guests stayed, but there was no ambassador or delegation at the time of the blast.
Gunmen have attacked a private university in Nigeria's northern Kaduna state, killing 1 staff member and kidnapping some students, police and officials said on Wednesday. It was not immediately clear how many students had been abducted from Greenfield University during the Tuesday night attacks, and one official said they were still conducting a head count. 2 officials at the university said that at least 20 students were still missing, though it wasn't clear how many had been taken by gunmen or may have fled the attack. The Greenfield University attack was the first kidnapping assault on a Nigerian school or college since December.
The school management and security agencies on the ground inform Kaduna State government that a staff of the university was killed here, and some students were also kidnapped.
The Indonesian National Search and Rescue Agency has deployed vessels to help in the search operation for an Indonesian Navy submarine with 53 crew aboard after contact was lost with the vessel off the coast of Bali. The submarine was scheduled to conduct live torpedo exercises as part of a naval drills when it asked for permission to dive early Wednesday morning, authorities said. They also said that a helicopter looking for the missing vessel spotted an oil spill in waters where the submarine was thought to have submerged. The Navy stated it had not pinpointed the exact location of the submarine, but had not narrowed down the search based on the spill. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.